The little girl stood at the edge of the schoolyard, one eye swollen shut and purple, her small frame trembling as she watched. The other children being picked up by their parents, 8-year-old. Emma had learned not to cry anymore. Tears only made things worse at home. But on this particular afternoon, as she clutched her worn backpack and saw a group of leather-clad bikers rumbling past the school on their motorcycles, something inside her broke open. Without thinking, she ran toward the fence and called out to them, her voice cracking with desperation. "Please, will you be my dad?" The lead biker, a mountain of a man named Pipes with a graying beard and arms covered in tattoos, immediately signaled his crew to stop. What happened next would change not just Emma's life, but transform an entire community's understanding of what family really means. Pipes had been riding with the Hells Angels for over 20 years. He'd seen plenty in his time, bar fights, broken bones, brothers lost to the road, but nothing had prepared him for the sight of that small girl with her bruised face pressed against the chain-link fence, her good eye pleading with an intensity that pierced right through his leather vest and into his heart. He killed his engine and walked over, kneeling down so he was at her eye level. "What's your name, sweetheart?" he asked gently, his rough voice softening in a way his brothers rarely heard. "Emma," she whispered. "Emma Rodriguez. Who did that to your eye, Emma?" The little girl looked down at her scuffed sneakers. "My mom's boyfriend. He gets mad a lot. Mom says she can't make him leave because we need the money for rent." Her words came out in a rush, as if she'd been holding them in for months. "I just want someone who'll protect me. Someone strong, like you." Pipes felt his chest tighten. He'd grown up in foster care himself, bouncing from home to home, and he recognized that particular flavor of desperation. He looked back at his crew, 26 hard-faced men who'd pulled over behind him. They were all watching, and he could see the same anger and concern reflected in their eyes. "Listen to me, Emma," Pipes said firmly. "You give me your address and you give me your mom's name." "Can you do that?" She nodded quickly, reciting the information from memory. Pipes pulled out his phone and typed it in, then gently touched her shoulder. "You go back inside that school right now and wait with your teacher. Don't you go home until your mama comes to get you. You understand? Are you really going to help me?" Her voice was so small, so filled with fragile hope. "Honey, you just got yourself 27 dads. We're going to make sure nobody ever hurts you again." Within an hour, Pipes had made a series of calls. First to social services, then to a lawyer friend who specialized in family law, and finally to a contact in the police department who owed him a favor from years back. The Hells Angels had a complicated reputation. They were outlaws, yes, but they also lived by a code, and that code had no tolerance for anyone who hurt children. Emma's mother, Maria Rodriguez, was a 32-year-old home health care worker barely making ends meet. When she arrived at the school to pick up her daughter and found 27 bikers in the parking lot, her first instinct was fear. But Pipes approached her with respect, his massive frame somehow non-threatening as he explained what Emma had told him. Maria's face crumpled. "I know," she sobbed. "I know it's bad. Jake's been getting worse, but I can't afford our apartment without his half of the rent. I've been looking for a second job. I've been trying to save enough to leave, but it's not fast enough. Every day I wake up terrified he's going to really hurt her." "Ma'am," Pipes said quietly, "that ends today. We're going to help you, but you've got to be willing to press charges and get a restraining order. Are you ready to do that?" Maria looked at her daughter, at the black eye and the hope dawning on her bruised face, and something shifted inside her. She'd been so beaten down by circumstances, so convinced she had no options, that she'd almost forgotten she had a choice. "Yes," she said firmly. "Yes, I'm ready." What happened over the next 2 weeks became the talk of the entire town. The Hells Angels became Emma's unofficial bodyguards. They arranged for Maria and Emma to move into a small apartment owned by one of the members' families, rent-free until Maria could get on her feet. They escorted Emma to and from school every single day, their motorcycles forming a protective convoy that no one would dare cross. When Jake, the abusive boyfriend, violated his restraining order and showed up drunk at Maria's workplace, he found himself face-to-face with 6 bikers who convinced him that leaving town permanently would be in his best interest. But it was what happened at Emma's school that really captured people's hearts. The principal, Mrs. Chen, initially worried about having motorcycle club members regularly on school property, but Pipes met with her personally and proposed something unusual. What if the Hells Angels started a mentorship program, not just for Emma, but for other kids who needed positive role models? These kids see us and they think we're scary, Pipes explained. But maybe scary is exactly what some of them need, not to hurt them, but to protect them. A lot of us came from rough backgrounds. We understand what it's like when home isn't safe. Let us show these kids that strength can be used to defend, not destroy. Mrs. Chen was skeptical but agreed to a trial program. Every Wednesday, 5 Hells Angels would come to the school for Biker Buddies, an after-school program where they'd help kids with homework, teach them about motorcycle maintenance and safety, and most importantly, just listen. The program started with 8 kids, all from difficult home situations. Within a month, the waiting list had 30 names on it. Emma blossomed. The black eye healed, and slowly, so did the invisible wounds. She started smiling again, raising her hand in class, making friends. Pipes became a fixture in her life, attending parent-teacher conferences with Maria, showing up at Emma's school play dressed in his best leather vest, teaching her how to stand up straight and speak with confidence. The other angels rotated through, each bringing their own skills and stories. Crusher taught her chess. Tiny showed her how to change a tire. Rattlesnake, who had a master's degree in literature but had dropped out of mainstream life, helped her with her reading. The story might have ended there, a heartwarming tale of bikers saving a child, but something deeper was happening. The Hells Angels' presence at the school started changing the culture. Other parents, seeing these tough men treat children with gentle respect, began questioning their own assumptions about what strength looked like, what masculinity meant, what protection required. Several fathers in the neighborhood, inspired by the bikers' dedication, started their own volunteer programs. The school saw a dramatic decrease in bullying. Turns out having Hells Angels teaching conflict resolution made quite an impact. 6 months after Emma first called out to Pipes through that fence, the local newspaper wanted to do a story. Pipes agreed, but only on the condition that the focus be on all the kids in the program, not just Emma. The reporter, a young woman named Sarah Levine, spent 3 weeks shadowing the Biker Buddies program. Her article, titled "The Gentlest Outlaws," went viral, garnering over 10 million views online and being picked up by national news outlets. People see the patches, the tattoos, the bikes, and they make assumptions, Pipes told Sarah. But every single one of us knows what it's like to need someone and have nobody show up. We decided a long time ago that we'd be the ones who show up. For each other, sure, but also for anyone who really needs us. Especially kids, because kids don't have any power in this world except what adults give them. And if we can give them safety, confidence, and someone who believes in them, then everything we've been through, all the hard roads we've traveled, it means something. When Sarah asked Emma what the bikers had given her, the now 9-year-old girl thought carefully before answering. "They gave me my voice back," she said. "Before I thought I was supposed to be quiet and small and invisible, but Pipes and the others taught me that I'm allowed to take up space. I'm allowed to be loud when something's wrong, and I'm allowed to ask for help. That's not being weak, that's being brave." On the 1-year anniversary of that first encounter, the Hells Angels chapter threw a barbecue at the school, a community event that drew over 300 people. Emma stood on a small stage, her mother beside her, and thanked her 27 dads for changing her life. There wasn't a dry eye in the crowd as these burly, tattooed bikers stepped forward one by one to receive hugs from the tiny girl, who'd found the courage to ask, strangers to care. The Biker Buddies program continued to grow, expanding to 3 other schools in the district. Pipes retired from his construction job to run the program full-time. Supported by donations and grants, Maria went back to school to become a licensed social worker, determined to help other families trapped in situations like hers had been. And Emma, resilient, fierce Emma, grew up knowing that family isn't just about blood. It's about who shows up when you're scared and alone, who sees you at your most vulnerable and chooses to protect rather than prey. Sometimes the most unlikely people become heroes. Sometimes the ones society has written off are exactly the ones who understand broken things, because they've been broken themselves and learned how to heal. And sometimes all it takes is one brave little girl to remind us all that asking for help isn't surrender, it's survival. And that true strength isn't about how much damage you can inflict, but how much love you can give to someone who desperately needs it.